welcome back to Gene and Roger Talk Movies. Gene is back from vacay, but he's not on the podcast today because he just got back yesterday and had no time to watch a film. So I have the lovely Melissa Starkey here with me today. Not the Melissa that did Silent Night, Deadly Night with me back in December, but a new Melissa.
The better Melissa.
The better one, yes. Melissa actually sits across from Melissa.
On Melissa Street.
Right, on Melissa Street. So for those longtime listeners of our podcast, you heard me talk about People Under the Stairs numerous times about how we were going to do that episode. We're doing it today.
Yes.
So I asked Melissa, hey, Gene's not going to be available. Do you want to be on the podcast? What movie would you like to do? And she's all like, I just love People Under the Stairs.
It's so good.
So let's get right into it. Melissa, where are you at with People Under the Stairs?
I think it's brilliant. I really do. It brings in the top 1%, hoarding everything, just keeping it in their basement, and they're not making interest off of it. They're just keeping it from everybody else, and they're suffering. And Fool, main character.
So the basic premise of the film is there is a decaying community,
yes.
I guess is the way to put
yes.
it. And the reason it's decaying is there's this couple.
Yeah, a couple. Well, we can call them that for sure.
That have hoarded everything. So they've bought up all the property and they're allowing it to decay because their big plan is to get everyone out of the community so they can put in strip malls or whatever the heck they're going to do.
Right.
And so they are disliked by the rest of the community, but of course the rest of the community has fallen into, obviously there's scenes of drug addiction when the young boy is walking into his apartment and all this stuff.
Right.
His mother is dying of cancer, it sounds like.
Yes.
Of course they can't afford to get the operation to save her. And of course they're getting evicted anyway because they can't pay rent.
Right.
And Fool, which is the young boy's nickname, his actual name is Poindexter, hooks up with, I guess that's his older sister's boyfriend.
And his friend.
And that's played by Ving Rhames, of course.
R.I.P.
A very early role for him. But they decide that, hey, we found out where this couple lives, and we believe they're hoarding a bunch of gold in their house, and so we're going to break in.
No. They're going to just stake it out first.
Stake it out first, but the overall goal is to break in and recover this gold.
Yes. And they enlist Fool because it sounds like, they probably did the same thing when they were young. Like it was like, hey, you're a man now. You're going to have to take care of your family. Let's go. Let's do this. No big deal.
Right. And his dying mother basically says, you're the man.
Yes.
Now, right. And so he's taken his responsibility that he's got to.
Very serious.
Yeah. Provide for the family.
Yes.
And Ving Rhames, of course, is very much a coercive kind of person.
Yeah. Like no nonsense. Let's go. Get in there.
And he even says like, oh, this is a perfect plan. There's no way we're going to get caught and all of this stuff.
Of course. Right.
And then it cuts to who this couple is. And the older fellow, he's played by, I cannot remember his name. Everett McGill, who is just beautiful in this role.
He is so good.
He was in many other things. He's got a super low voice, which I really love.
Yeah.
But he's feasting off of some, I don't know, ribs or something like that.
Are they all cannibals?
Right.
Are they? Like, they don't necessarily say that, but you get the idea.
Right.
Yeah, they put that out there. Yeah, like all greasy too, like just slick. Yeah.
And so then who you assume is his wife comes in. There's this young girl there played by AJ Langer, who has a really interesting story going forward as just an actress. But she plays this very sheepish girl, Alice. You assume it's their daughter. She is very much dominated and controlled by this family.
Terrified of everything.
Right.
And I think she's the best. She does the best acting in that whole movie.
Agreed.
She's like when I'm jumping ahead now, but like the bathtub scene where they're like holding, and she like it looks so very terrifying.
Well, and there's the other scene where she slips on that pool of blood down at the...
Oh, I know. Then when they're trying to make her clean it.
I'm sure she really slipped because that looks like, the actress actually slipped there and goes down pretty hard.
Yeah.
But kept rolling, right? They don't cut away.
Well, right. Yeah, you got to use it.
So, but and so she's going through significant emotional and physical abuse and probably sexual abuse by that quote unquote father character.
Right.
Because there's some sequences where she has to be taught a lesson. She has to be punished.
It is insinuated, for sure.
Yeah. And so anyway, Ving Rhames and Fool end up gaining access to this house.
And Leroy.
And of course, Leroy gains access to the house first.
As a meter reader.
Right. Because they're trying to scope out the house, right? And they realize that, wow, there's locks on all the windows. There's gates and locks on all the windows, but they're locked from the outside. And,
from the inside.
Well, but remember they had the padlocks on the outside of those
Oh, there we go.
windows,
Yes.
And so it's a really weird thing, but of course they're in this decaying neighborhood, so okay, maybe they're just concerned about getting broken into.
And they're like, rich white people are weird.
Right.
Yeah, like exactly. It's that whole vibe, and so it's kind of like okay.
Yeah, because so it's not only is it hard to break in, it's certainly difficult to actually break out because if there was a fire upstairs, there's no way you could get out because the stupid gates are all padlocked up there over the windows. But Leroy gets in first and then doesn't come out.
He does not come out. He starts snooping around. They leave him alone in the house. Mm-hmm. I don't remember where they were going.
Right, no, so they drive away.
And we should also mention, when we keep saying they or the man or the father figure or the woman, they don't have names.
Right. They refer to themselves as mommy and daddy.
They call each other mommy and daddy. So even in the credits, it's just man and woman or mommy and daddy. But he goes snooping around. He thinks he hears something, and he finds a crawl space type thing.
Into the basement.
Yeah. He sees some kids.
Something, and then
he sees something. Sure. Yeah. Yes. What we know now is people.
People under the stairs.
People under the stairs. And that's he doesn't leave.
Right, he does not.
He doesn't leave. And I love it when Fool says, because remind me his name. Not Fool.
Ving Rhames?
Yeah. But his character's name.
Leroy?
No, that Leroy's the other guy.
It says right here, Ving Rhames as Leroy.
Okay, then who am I thinking?
Let's just call him Jimmy.
Okay, Jimmy. But he's like, you thought he was white before? Because he got scared. So scared he lost all color. And it was actually, I thought it was a good way for him to go. It was good.
Well, and then whatever's under those stairs is trying to pull that corpse into the...
To eat.
You're right.
Which you don't necessarily know at the time. Right. That becomes more apparent later on.
And so basically what we're getting at is this is kind of a horror comedy satire type film. There's definitely, it's not straight horror by any means, which is kind of a little bit of a surprise for Wes Craven. Of course, we talked about Nightmare on Elm Street many years ago. But this is one of the Wes Craven films that I'm really surprised it actually got made because of the weird tone, because it's a really berserk film.
It is.
And that, I think one of the reasons Melissa likes it a lot and I really like it a lot is because you haven't really seen something like this before, just on how berserk it is. Because at one point, the daddy character is in a full-on gimp suit running around in his house, shooting into the walls because one of the captives, they've got I don't even know, 20 people down there,
probably
something like that. One of them has freed himself and now is running in the walls all over the place. His name is Roach. And you just have this out of nowhere random scene where he's wandering around in this full-on gimp suit, shooting a shotgun into the walls.
Right. Yes. And Roach is wonderful. And I like how they made it that Alice had a friend.
Right.
And that was her other than mommy and daddy, that was like her only relationship that she'd ever had.
Right, because she has never been out of the
Never
house.
been outside.
There's a sequence later where she has an opportunity to escape, and she doesn't because she doesn't understand what the outside world
Yeah,
is.
she doesn't know what's out there, and she decides to stay, and yeah,
which is an interesting commentary on the effects of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse.
Like,
right?
It's like Stockholm syndrome. Like
right,
it's not like she was in love with her captor, like, but she was so, they had her so scared of absolutely, and especially knowing what she knew, if you did see, speak, or hear evil, where you went, and if it were that bad, and like your parents were treating you this way, like how bad could it be out there?
She believes these two people are her parents.
Right.
You discover later they are not.
They are not. They are not.
But there's even that really, I think the most intense the film gets is when the scene is the mother character comes in and Alice is sitting at this little tiny, almost like a school table with her little chair, and she gets fed up in her room.
Right.
And then there's this, where's the fork, right? And
so,
So the mother's like, where's the fork, right? And because she has been kind of providing food, I think, to Roach a little bit, which is why Roach has the fork in the wall. And the mother is going to just go to town on this poor little girl because the fork is
You've been feeding the thing
you can't find
in the walls.
Fork, right?
Yes.
And that's a pretty intense scene because this actress one is really good. Both characters in this scene are really good. You have tremendous fear from this mother character because, she's a horrible, horrible emotional and physical abuser for sure.
Yes.
And now something as simple as, I gave you a fork, where is it? And I'm going to have to punish you if I don't get this fork.
And she definitely wears the pants in the family. Like it's, daddy, take care of this. Like, your daughter did this, take care of it.
Yeah. But anyway, we end up with Ving Rhames and Leroy and Fool in the house, trapped in the house. There's a Rottweiler dog involved as well, which is probably the most dangerous aspect of this house. Because he can get in the walls and run through the walls.
Okay, yes.
Right?
Sure.
You know?
Yes, and it's Prince doesn't make it to the end.
No. Yeah. And this was one of the animal killing scenes where I'm okay with this happening because this dog is straight up evil.
That is a bad dog.
Yes.
It's a beautiful dog, but it's a bad dog. But yeah, Leroy gets shot.
Right. So gimp suit guy.
Gimp suit daddy.
he ends up tracking him down in the house because you can't get out. Once they hit these buttons and stuff, the doors are electrified.
Right. But I did like when he got shot, the first shot, and he says, "Run, fool." Mm-hmm. And daddy is like, he called me a fool. Right. Did you hear that? And it's like, okay. So maybe Fool, the kid, Poindexter, maybe he's undetected. He's okay, and he is for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, Leroy gets shot multiple times and is straight up killed, which then leads us to a sequence where you do see what they do with the bodies of the people they kill. You also discover later that Alice makes little dolls out of the victims of the people that have come in and have been killed by the family.
And she has quite a few.
Yes, right.
She has quite a few.
Right.
So the whole point, the people who are under the stairs are kids that that mommy and daddy have taken. I do not believe any of them, there's no reason to believe any of it was legal adoption or any of them were their biological children. And the rule of the house is you do not see, hear, or speak evil. Mm-hmm. And if you do this, that part of your body, if you saw something bad, it's insinuated, you'd lose not even insinuated. You see, once you see the dwellers under the stairs, you see, the eyes missing. And with Roach, who's stuck in the walls, they removed his tongue. That's actually a really fabulous scene when he shows Fool that he has no tongue. So he can't speak. He can't speak any more evil. And so Alice is just, as long as I don't see, hear, or speak evil, I'll be all good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's good.
Which, again, she is horribly physically, emotionally abused for sure. And so she's somehow recognized that if I just do this, but still put up with all this emotional and physical trauma and sexual trauma, I can live.
I know, because it's not even, she doesn't want to get out.
Right. So it's even though it's kind of a horror comedy satire, there are some underlying themes that are very serious in this film. And I think, again, the actress who plays Alice does an amazing job. You feel her torment.
Yes,
for sure.
For sure.
But the people under the stairs, they're all locked in under there. And Daddy then brings Ving Rhames' body down to the basement, and you kind of see how everyone down there feeds off of this meat, basically.
Right.
And he's cutting them up. He's got a big drop door.
And they're fighting over it. They want every last bit of it. They're all severely malnourished and in need of a meal.
Right. And even the dog gets the hand.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome.
But they even do get visited later by protective services. Do you remember that?
They do, because Fool calls. He escapes. He jumps out the window into a pond of sorts, and he calls Child Protective Services, and they show up. And of course,
well, they show up in force too, which is hilarious because we have to deal with Child Protective Services. Right. I've not seen that many police cars show up for, hey, I'm just calling in some sexual or some physical abuse.
Here's
here.
An anonymous call. And they show up and they're ready to go, and she answers the door and gives them cookies and coffee, and the house is all, they covered up all the shotgun holes in the wall.
Well, and they're going around picking up the chains and the handcuffs, and they're throwing them in these special little corners of the house that they've got. So yeah, they are just they're evil people. And then they go up to Alice's room. They're like, oh, hey, Chief, look at this, and it's this immaculate put together.
Yeah, you said you didn't have any kids.
And they're like, oh, this was our child that the Lord took away.
Yeah, she's not with us anymore. And and they take her word for it. Mm-hmm. They, she's like, oh, I'm sorry you had to waste your time. And they're sorry that they,
Well, and I think, too, this is right, because all of those cops are white. Mommy and Daddy are white.
She's the whitest white lady I've ever seen.
But there was a scene earlier where the vehicle that Fool and Leroy were in is pulled right up to the house right before they break in. Mm-hmm. And then the police stumble across it, and they're looking at it, and the woman comes out, and she's like, oh, yeah, it was just here. They're like, oh, it looks like your house was broken into. Oh, yeah, we already checked it. It's fine. You don't need to come in.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And so there's a little bit of a commentary there on, oh, yeah, they're just white people, so of course we can trust them.
Right.
And it's just a interesting part of this film because, again, it's insane what is happening in this film.
It is insane. They touch on so many, I feel they do. They touch on so many different real issues.
Right.
And so, but they've made it into a horror movie, which everybody loves.
Right. Just the cool people.
The coolest, yeah. I think that he did a fantastic job of bringing some comedy in there, because it's not like necessarily laugh out loud, like that was the best part type of comedy, but it was enough to like just lighten a moment.
Right. The daddy character definitely has most of the comedy because he keeps getting injured by
like kicked in the nuts and stuff
like that, and just the whole gimp suit thing where he's running around is just hilarious.
It is so funny,
and I really like that. As the movie progresses, though, and like we said earlier, Fool does escape. Alice chose not to escape with him because, again, she doesn't understand what the outside world is. But Fool, to his credit, is like, yep, I'm free, but I need to get her out of there. So he goes back in to get her out of there.
But I want to say Roach dies beforehand.
Yeah, Roach dies.
So Roach dies, but gives Fool some gold some of Daddy's gold.
They do discover that, yes, the gold really is here.
It's there, but Fool leaves to, he needs to report this. He needs to,
this
be the
is when
savior.
He calls in the
he calls
services.
him in, and he goes home and he shows the gold to that old man who says, not only do you have enough money for your mom's surgery, you have enough to pay rent for the rest of your life.
Right.
And he's like, well, there's plenty more of where that came from. We got to go back. We got to get Alice. We're not done. Yeah. So, yeah.
And so he does. So when Protective Services is there, Fool does sneak back in, gets himself into the walls. At this point, Alice is chained up in the attic by this fireplace thing. And so he's crawled up in the fireplace and gets with her. But then this is where Chaos World completely takes over as far as how the movie plays out. The people under the stairs do get freed.
Right.
And
by Fool.
Mommy gets into a knockdown, drag-out fight with Alice.
And the people under the stairs come to her rescue.
Right, they come to her rescue.
And I loved that Alice didn't actually, lunge at her, because that wouldn't have been believable. She was such a timid character, so scared, and so that Mommy just, kind of ran into it type of thing. And so it was just, left Alice no reason to ever have any remorse. Right, exactly. I didn't.
Well, and at this time, everyone's also figured out that these are not your parents. They're not even mother and father. They're brother and sister.
And husband and wife.
Right. And so it's just, they're really a twisted couple. They do a throwaway line of dialogue where this family has been around for years and years and years. And
had a funeral home or selling cheap.
Each generation is more insane than the last and all this stuff. But the other cool thing about the end is the rest of the remaining neighborhood shows up at the front door.
Yes.
And so they're all basically trying to take back their neighborhood at that point.
Yeah.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, they kind of succeed because
it starts raining money.
Right, because Daddy has rigged the entire house to explode for some reason.
Right. And Fool's just crazy enough to do it.
Right. I'm going to hit that plunger and blow the whole house up, which sends, because he does discover this area of the house, which is just McScrooge,
I was just going to say
kind of thing, with just money everywhere. And then, of course, the end of the film is, the people under the stairs are freed, the house has exploded, and money is just raining from the heavens.
Right. Yes. It's similar to the scene in The Goonies, all the money on the ship. Yes. No.
But it's definitely a film that's outside of Wes Craven's normal thing. It's no Hills Have Eyes. It's no Nightmare on Elm Street. It's no Scream. It's a unique little film that you haven't really seen before. It came out in 1991. Low budget, of course. It was only $6 million or whatever.
It made a ton of money.
It made some decent money. It made $32 million. In
1991.
So allowed Wes Craven to continue his journey as a filmmaker.
Yes.
And just provided us with a really interesting thing. One thing I do want to talk about, though, is the actress who plays Alice, A.J. Langer. I think this is really interesting because a lot of people always say, well, if you're in these cheap horror movies, you never go anywhere. Did you know that she is now like a countess somewhere?
Oh, really?
Yeah, she married she is now Lady Courtenay because she married the Earl of Devon.
No way.
Right.
Good for her. She was in My So-Called Life.
Right.
Yeah.
She apparently quit acting a few years after this movie and then hooked up with this Duke or Earl of Devon, and they got married, and so she's royalty now in some
because she was
country.
So pure.
Right. I am certain the Earl of Devon has not seen People Under the Stairs.
You don't think?
I would hope not.
Oh, well, I think he should. I think everybody should, because I think it's an outstanding film, and you almost get something. Watch it a couple times.
Well, and I do think for a seasoned horror film fan, right, we're always looking for movies we haven't seen before, things that we haven't seen before. That's why movies like Necromantic, we searched that out, or things like that. Never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
This is another one where it is so insane and you haven't seen anything like this before, and it's well worth a watch.
For sure.
Will you like it? I don't know. Will you hate it? I don't know. But it's definitely worth a watch. I really enjoyed it. I saw it back in the theater back in the day. And Melissa, anything else about People Under the Stairs?
No, just get on it.
Right. And you were telling me, though, that you first saw this when you were 8?
Yeah, I was 8 years old. And I bought it years ago on Amazon Prime because now I'm going to get all the haters. My children also really love horror movies. And this is one that it's not, especially if you don't understand the undertones of like the incest and all that stuff. There's not a ton of cussing.
No.
Like it's very watchable, and it's very, like, there are the funny moments, and that, like the good guy wins in the end, and the girl gets away, and yeah, it's
kind
just
of a fairy tale almost.
It is almost.
Right?
It's
and I think for young people, right, you have a very young protagonist.
Yeah.
Fool is
he 10 years
10
old maybe?
something, yeah. And so it's an easy film to watch there. But I just did want to make a comment on your parents. Yeah, they're pretty awesome letting their 8-year-old see People Under the Stairs. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. No, thanks.
All right. Well, Melissa, thanks so much for talking about People Under the Stairs.
Of course.
And Gene will be back, I'm assuming, next week. We'll do something, and we'll just go from there. But thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.